Welcome to the VBAC Homebirth Stories podcast, where we celebrate and share powerful VBAC homebirth stories to inspire and support mamas just like you. I'm your host, Ashley Winning, a VBAC homebirth advocate and mama of 3, and I believe every woman deserves to birth with confidence and trust in her body. In each episode, you'll hear real-life stories, expert insight, and encouragement to help you feel informed and empowered on your VBAC homebirth journey. Let's dive in. Hey, thanks for coming back to another episode on the podcast. I'm your host, Ashley. I have been doing so many things lately, and I have so many things to talk about, but I wanted to come and talk to you about what if your VBAC fails again? Because I've had this question come up a lot lately with women I've been working with. And I think a lot of us, when we're planning a VBAC, especially if we've had we've all planned, most of us have planned for a vaginal birth the first time, and then we're putting everything into this VBAC, or maybe sometimes we're coming after, a VBAC after 2 cesareans like myself, or 3 cesareans or 4 cesareans. And so sometimes there's a lot of trauma and a lot of what ifs happening, and the woman feels that she's going to get her vaginal birth, but then what if? What if it doesn't happen? And so what if your VBAC fails? And I say the word fail. I don't personally subscribe or believe that it is a failure. I think that every lesson has everything that we do has a lesson in it, and it's just I don't think that anything is failing when we give everything our all either. And I think that's something that we need to reframe ourselves in the way that we word and we use language to explain things as well. There's nothing empowering about saying that you failed at your VBAC. Sometimes I'll say fail because of the language that other people identify with. But I don't see it as a failure on my behalf. I see it as a failure on the system. And that's, 9 years ago now. So that's like reflecting for years and years and years. But I definitely felt like a failure after that experience. I felt very traumatized, and I was enraged. I honestly was. I was sitting with rage, emotions, grief. I had a big cloud over the top of my head. I was honestly devastated, and it took a very long time. And this idea of home birth being the option and the savior, I suppose, of I've never tried a home birth, maybe this will be the thing that succeeds. But it wasn't that home birth was the only thing. Yes, choosing to have a home birth gives you a much higher chance at having a vaginal birth, but it doesn't give you 100% chance at having a vaginal birth. And I have worked with women who have had planned home births and gone on to have C-sections. And then, so there is no magic, well, this time it's going to be different, we're going to do a home birth. It's trying to uncover what happened in that last birth or last births, and try to understand how this time it could be different. And it can be challenging. Sometimes it's mindset, sometimes it's fear, sometimes there's a medical challenge that happens that induces fear, and so the choices to do things feel like they're the right choices, or sometimes they are the right choices, reflecting back and unpacking everything. And so we're always just trying to do the best that we can in that moment, and trying to do what we can. One of the things that I said to myself when I had my home birth was, because I'd put so much time, energy, and investment into planning for my free birth after 2 cesareans, I said to myself this time, because I punished myself. I punished myself so much. I had so much trauma, and it was all a lot of like, what ifs? What if I'd done this? What if I'd done that? What if I'd made a different choice? And I said to myself this time, I'm not going to punish myself. I'm sure that there will be weeks or maybe months where I have this subconscious feeling like if only I'd done this or hadn't done this or whatever. But I said to myself, I'm going to do everything in my power to not punish myself for the choices that I make. I also said to myself that, I'm inviting people into my birth, and I can only control a certain amount of what happens.
I had a very strong conversation with my team and I told them, I am in charge. I don't want you to tell me what positions to get into. I don't want you to direct me in any way. I don't want any coaching. And I also said at the same time, I also want you to have responsibility of telling me if you feel, with all of your experience, if something is medical that needs medical urgency. And I did look at that person to give them responsibility and give away some of my power for certain things like the placenta delivery and blood loss and things like that. Ironically, in my birth, it did go down that my birth was disturbed, which was one of the things I didn't want to happen, but I couldn't control how my birth team would respond. I could only talk to them multiple times about certain thing and hope that they got the picture, hope that they didn't have any trauma or any experiences that would disrupt the birth. But how they behaved on the day was totally out of my control. And so I had a choice to, after my experience, and this is my free birth, so I had a successful vaginal birth at home. But, it wasn't without fuss and it wasn't without some sort of trauma that happened. The birth wasn't traumatic. The ambulance coming here wasn't traumatic. Even what happened with the doula and the fear and some of the things and coach pushing, that wasn't traumatic. I mean, it was scary because for a split second, I wasn't sure how I was going to get my baby out without someone actually helping me. But the baby came out quite quickly with some purple pushing. The trauma part was transferring to the hospital and feeling like a fish out of water and Chinese whispers in the hospital and being this weirdo that had a free birth and my baby being in special care. That was quite challenging for me. But I had to forgive the people that were in my birth, in a sense. I had to release them for myself. I had to, because I was really ragey with my second VBAC that ended up in a C-section. I used to have flashbacks of like what I would do to the doctors what I felt butchered me and put my life at risk. I was so passionate on this revenge story. And I think that just helped me get through the trauma. Like I was so traumatized that I had this black cloud hanging over my head. And I think it just helped me. I really love like revenge movies. Like if you've watched Taken or, heaps of those action hero, it's really focused on revenge, like going out there and shooting people up and stuff. And obviously, the other one I love is John Wick. I think it's got like five movies now. But obviously it's very they are big hits and, get lots of people watching them. So clearly a lot of people love the idea of getting revenge on people. Obviously I didn't get revenge on people, but just the thought of getting revenge gave me some sort of satisfaction. But when it came to my free birth, I said to myself, no matter what happens, I'm going to learn to forgive and let it go. When it came to the people in my birth, there was no malice there and it wasn't intentional. And when it came to me giving my power over at the end, I outsourced that. I hired someone who I thought had more experience and could help me. And so therefore I looked to them to give me the answers. And I have to take responsibility of the choices that I made. If I could go back in time with the knowledge and information that I have now, in hindsight, of course I would make different choices, but I can't do that. I can't go back and make different choices. The choices have been made and they were the best choices for the situation and the time that I was in at that moment. And with the knowledge and information I had, I didn't know how the birth was going to unfold. And there's like thousands of different variables that can happen in a birth that make it really challenging. We can only prepare for so much. And when we plan for a home birth or a free birth, we can only like understand and prepare for so much with the limited experience that we have. And so when we go into our birth, if we give everything our all, we educate ourselves as much as possible. We try and eat as much as possible, nourishing good foods. We surround ourselves with supportive people. We do all those things. We work on our mindset. We work on our advocating voice. And we set ourselves with a great team. We choose home birth. We're choosing the place that's going to give us the best opportunity to have a home birth, then we've done the best we can, you know. I've worked with women lately, and and in person as a birth doula, who, have planned a home birth, and at the last hour when they're going to transition, they transfer into hospital for pain relief or to get something checked. And some people might have a lot of resentment and regret for those decisions, but there's so much more power in being able to accept the choices that were made and feel proud of yourself for those choices, and really understanding what it is that you see as success, what you actually feel is successful. Like for me, it wasn't so much about the home birth. Yes, I wanted to have the home birth, and honestly, I would have loved to have had the whole thing where I got to stay home. I didn't have to go and deal with the hospital at all. Of course, that just makes the most sense and is just the easiest pathway. But for me, it was about having the vaginal birth. I really wanted to have a vaginal birth. I really wanted to be able to stay home as long as possible. But I think I would have been happy if I ended up in hospital and had a vaginal birth. And I wouldn't have been happy if I ended up in a C-section. But if I had done everything I possibly could and I ended up in another C-section, I would love myself through that process. I would have chosen to love myself because I did everything I possibly could. I gave it a shot. I gave it a real chance. I set myself up. I invested time and energy and money into making that happen. And then I worked in the birth with whatever came up. So everyone's birth's different. So some women have very long labors. They are in labor for 3 hours, for 3 days, for example. They're in labor for 3 days, and it's challenging and it's really hard. And then they end up transferring to hospital for management and end up in a C-section or end up having an epidural or things like that. Who is anyone to judge who hasn't walked in those shoes? You know what I mean? And a woman can have a really intense labor and very, very challenging, and another woman could have a really easy time of it all. So I don't think we should worry about comparing ourselves to other women. We don't know how that birth felt to that woman, and every woman's different. Some women that I work with as a birth doula now, and I see women, they surprise me. Sometimes I think, I question, is this woman, like, we've done all the work, she's done everything, but is she going to be able to advocate for herself? Especially when I'm talking about a hospital birth. Is she going to be, because at the end of the day, they have to use their voice. Women have to use their voices. Women are the ones that control the path and the birth. And when women walk into the hospital system and they own that birth and they, use their voice, and I'm just like, wow, okay, this is going to play out differently because that woman is stepping into control and power. But it's hard to do that if you've gone straight into labor and it's immensely painful and you can't catch your breath and you can't get into the mindset and get into the groove of birth, and there's fear and panic and all this stuff happen, which actually happened to me in my free birth. I went straight into this intense birth and it really took me a minute, and I say like 4 hours was a minute to cope with it because I went straight into transition. And so birth is so different for every woman. Every woman has different support systems. Some women have a really strong rock in their husband, or they have an amazing birth team who have just got their back, who can get there to them in time and help settle them. And other women, for whatever reason, maybe their midwife can't get to them because they're at another birth, and there's nothing we can do about that. We literally are given whatever happens at the time. Like for me, for my VBAC, when I was in the hospital, I had this really amazing obstetrician who was the only one that I felt safe and comfortable with. She was pregnant herself, and I knew she was working on the Saturday. But when I went into the hospital in labor, like spontaneous labor, she actually wasn't there. She'd stopped working the day before, and I've thought back on this over the years thinking, why? If she was there, maybe everything would have played out differently. Maybe I would have different support instead of this obstetrician who just wanted me to have a C-section. And it doesn't matter why, it all fell the way that it did, and we won't have anything, we can't do it any differently. So if you're thinking about, if you're thinking about, you know, what happens if I fail? I want you to know if you give it your all, if you set yourself up the best you can, and you give it all on the day and you really try, that's not failing. That is success. That is you giving something your all. That is you being vulnerable. And that's not a failure. And so whenever you think about it, if you've had a birth that didn't play out the way that you wanted it to, you weren't a failure. You did the best you could with the knowledge you knew at the time. But there's no playbook. There's no, this is exactly how it's going to pan out. Nobody knows that. And nobody can be 100% prepared. And sometimes it is just damn luck, the women who get supported, everything working out the way that it needs to. And sometimes it's grit, and sometimes it's knowledge. It's knowing certain things and being able to navigate those things. And so that's why having knowledge, working on your muscles for your mindset and your pain tolerance, having the best support team, birthing in the space that's going to give you the best opportunity, all of those things matter, because it's not just one piece of the puzzle, it's all of the pieces. I really hope that if you're going through a challenging time at the moment, that you can allow yourself some love and grace, because it is hard and you're looking after these children, and to be the best mother that you can be, you need to look after yourself and stop punishing yourself. I spent so long punishing myself, and it was at the detriment of myself and my family, and I will never do that to myself ever again. I really hope I never, ever put myself through that much grief. But I really hope that if you're hearing this at the moment, that you also can have some love for yourself. I also want to let you know, guys, that I have moved over my VBAC village to a different platform, school, and I've revamped it a little bit, but I would love to welcome you into that space. It's a supportive space for you to go through and get all the answers that you need for your VBAC and get the right support. It's only $9 a month as well, so you can come and stay for the month. You can come and stay for a few months. You can get all the support that you want, and we would love to welcome you. I hope to see you in there soon, and I'll bring you another episode soon. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the VBAC Homebirth Stories podcast. I hope today's story inspired you to trust your body, own your choices, and embrace the power of birth. If you loved this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another mama who needs to hear this. Do you have a VBAC homebirth story to share? I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on ashleywinning.com or on Insta at ashleylwinning. Until next time, take care and trust your body.